We're now going to look at the second part of the restorative inquiry. The resolve model has outlined for you the first questions you've asked. You've run right through this reflective opportunity with one individual who's party to an event. You've sat with them and asked them to reflect on what happened and the feeling that they were left with when it occurred. And moving on through any instances before and since, those feelings, culminating in them telling you how they're left feeling now and what they need. Now we move on to the second part of this inquiry, where you mine the value in the answer to the needs question. But let's just consider the backdrop to this, because here you are as the resolve facilitator, and you're talking, let's say, to Blue. And we know that Blue and Green are the parties who have experienced an upset. Perhaps this is a woman on the labour ward and she has taken some sort of distressed response to the way she considers she was spoken to by this staff member. Or perhaps these are two staff members. These are the two that you're hoping to engage in conversation. This is your end game, that your belief is that in them owning an event and talking with each other, that they can resolve that. So here you are at the restorative inquiry stage talking with Blue. In the course, you were very quick to recognise that when you were doing this restorative inquiry with Blue, and I asked you, who's hearing the answers to the questions you're asking? Initially you said, oh, well, me, because I'm asking them. But really it dawned on you, didn't it, that it's Blue who's hearing the answers. Blue is hearing their own answers. It's their journey. And we're almost a mirror of reflecting back to them the reality that they're experiencing now and reflecting on what happened, the feelings that they've had and what they need. So you got to the point here with the first set of questions where you said, what do you need? And we know that the answer to the needs question will be rich in information for you to further bring to Blue an opportunity for them to say, oh my gosh, I think I might need to talk to Green, because all the time you're talking with Blue, Green really is in the frame, aren't they? Because they're the other half. Now, in terms of the answer to the needs question, you've said to Blue, what do you need? When we consider what happens when two people talk, it's an exchange, isn't it, of information and questions, and more information in answer to those questions. So in the answer to the needs question, we're alert to listen out for any of these. Because it's in Blue having a question or a statement that needs to be heard, that they begin to resonate then with an idea, maybe I need to talk to Green. So let's see. When we ask someone, what do you need? Their answers fall into two categories. If their preceding answer to you had been, well, I'm left feeling now absolutely terrified, then perhaps they're going to say, when you ask, what do you need? They might say, well, I need to feel safe, or I need to feel some respect. So you may get some answers like that, but most commonly the answers you'll hear to the question, what do you need, are ones like, well, I need to know why she did it. Or, did somebody else suggest to her that she do this to me? Was someone else involved? Or, I need him to realise that this is no way to behave, He needs to know. So these might be some of the needs answers you hear. Now these are very different kind of answers, aren't they, to the needs question, and offer you quite different chunks of information to play with. This is the heart of your practice. What do you do with these answers? Because your end game is to bring Blue to a realization that there's an appropriateness in talking with the other. So we can categorize these answers in two ways. The answers which are describing, I need to feel safe, I need to feel respected, are in fact life state answers. They're describing a life state, a way of being. Whereas these answers, I need to know why she did it. He needs to know da-da-da. These are more positions that the person's taken. They had a suite of options they could have chosen, but they chose that or that. They've taken a position. So, if people give us a life state answer, I need to feel safe, I need to feel respected, I need to feel understood. They're describing a life state. What we do with these is we almost go, paint me a picture. We grab this and we say, safe. Tell me more about safe. What would safe look like for you? And then they'll jump the fence. They'll say, well, I'd feel safe if I knew she wasn't going to do it anymore. So then we've got them over here. So these are no problem to us. They just require an extra layer of curiosity. Tell me more about respect. What would respect look like for you? What would be happening if you were being treated with respect? Well, they'd stop spreading rumours about me. There we are, they've jumped. We need people over this side because, as we looked earlier, we're going shopping here for some statements and some questions. And here we have it. There's a question. Here's a statement. He needs to know. These are very easy, and this is what we need. This is what enables us to grow the potential of a dialogue between these two parties. So just to recap, you've claimed some time with one party, let's say it's Blue, you've sat with Blue and you've run down these standard questions down to what do you need? It's all about them. They answer the needs question either with a life state, which you further explore by saying, tell me more about safe. What would be happening for you if you felt safe? And they'll describe something that they need to happen in order to feel these things. Or they may have gone straight to a position, opted for one of these and said, well, I need to know, which is a question, or they need to know, which is a statement. Very occasionally, you might get something fairly strong here, fairly random, which you couldn't immediately use, but once again, you can make use of it. Let's say somebody said, well, she should lose her job because of this. She should lose her registration. Now, we have already spent time growing rapport and asking all these questions with that person. We've brought them to this, what do you need? And they've ended up saying this. We don't want to pour cold water on their idea, but equally we know this isn't going to fly and we can't do much with it. But once again, we can be curious and just go hypothetical on it and say, gosh, if that could happen, how would that help? Well, then she wouldn't be able to do it to anybody else. That sounds important to you. Who needs to know that? She mustn't do it to anybody else. Well, she does. So there we have a statement. She mustn't do it to anybody else. So if you get something too strong or a little random, still mine it hypothetically and say, if that could happen, what would it mean for you? And then they'll find the essence of it for themselves, and then you can run with it. Because what we're doing here is building up, basically, the bones of a conversation between blue and green. But blue may not know this yet. But let's have a look. Let's say the answer blue gave us was this one. Well, I need to know why she did it. Why did she yell at me like that? I was doing my best. They've got a question, haven't they? So we play with this question. We're very pleased they've got the question, because in fact that enables us to leap right on in. What we first give them is the benefit of knowing what it is they're holding. So we say, that's a very important question you've got there. Why did she do it? Ultimately, we're wanting to know who needs to answer your question. But it's a fairly bold move to go straight there. Because for blue, it may be a little confronting to have to say green's name right away. So we have a question in between the two, which mines for the value in the answer that this is going to afford them. So if they've said to us in answer to the needs question, I need to know why she did it, we go straight in and say, gosh, that's an important question you've got there. How would an answer to your question help you? Well, then I know where this has come from. Then I'll know how to keep safe. Then I'll know if it was anything I did. And in them telling you the value in the answer to their question, they are then much more likely to make the leap to this last question you're going to put to them, which is, who's best to answer your question? And then they might say, oh, green. And there you have it. They've mentioned green's name. They've started to see that green is part of this. Now, one piece of gold, as we might call it, is probably not enough to bring this to fruition. We better go back in and grow another one. So having scored one question, it's very easy now, you're on a roll. You simply say to blue, well, that's one important question, why did she do it? Is there anything else you've left curious about? Anything else you want to know? Well, has she told anyone else? It would be really embarrassing if she's gone and told other people about it. Same again, well, that's an important question. How would an answer to that question help you? And who needs to answer that? They'll say green again, won't they? So that's twice now they've said green's name. And you've scored 2 questions. But what you haven't heard yet are any statements. And if we're thinking, oh, we'd like this conversation to be fairly balanced, we've found that blue's got 2 important questions. This is where you can use a sort of segue to start mining for statements. So you can say to blue, right, you've got 2 important questions there. These are the things you want to know. But is there anything you want them to know? Because that's you mining for statements, because anything that blue wants green to know is a statement that blue has. So invariably they'll say, well, yes, she should realise it's not professional to carry on like that. Statement. Same again. We say to blue, that's an important statement you've got there. Statements get heard, questions are answered. So ultimately where we're heading with this is who needs to hear your statement. Once again offering the recognition to blue that this has to be heard by someone in particular, and inevitably the realization is that it's green. But ahead of taking blue to this big question of who needs to hear your statement, we once again offer blue the opportunity to put value on having the statement heard, because that's probably more likely then for them to reach for green as the recipient of it. So having said to blue, gosh, that's an important statement you've got there. This is not professional behaviour. Then we ask, how would having your statement heard help you? They'll say, well, it kind of draws a line under it, and it also holds up notions of best practice. And who needs to hear your statement? Inevitably they'll say, oh, green. So you've shunted the agenda along some now, haven't you? They've come up with their statement. That is not professional practice. And they've said that green needs to hear it. Another piece of gold. You've got 3 now. You've got 1, you may as well go back in for another. You're rounding up now, you say, so that's an important thing you need green to know. Some measures there around professional practice. Is there anything else you want green to know? Well, that I used to look up to her and now I'm just not even sure what to make of her. Important statement. How would having that statement heard help? And who needs to hear your statement? Once again, they'll say green. Now from us looking in, we might think, oh, this might be getting a little monotonous. They've had to say the name 4 times. But that's not how it feels to blue. It's compelling evidence that this issue is theirs, as in blues and greens. And they've called it 4 times. This is what will bring blue into the room. 4 pieces of gold. But there's 2 freebies, aren't there? Do you remember those? One is where you do a bit of a stock take here and you say to blue, gosh. So you've got 2 important questions and 2 statements too. What might life be like for you if you can get your statements heard and your questions answered? Well, you know, I might have peace of mind. I might feel like I've sorted it. Important, isn't it? That's a big piece of gold there. And what's life like if you don't? If you don't get this sorted, you don't get your answers and your statements heard. What's life like for you then? Oh, I'll just be the same. I'll still feel stuck. 6 reasons now to press on through with blue and ask the last question of them. Okay, so you'll say to blue, thank you for talking with me about this. And I've heard you say how important the answers to your questions are and having your statements heard is to you, and the fact that life will be better if you can get this matter sorted. So I wonder how you might go about that. Who would you need to have there? And then you hold on tight, because inevitably they'll say, well, I suppose green. If they get a wobble and say, oh, but I don't think I could be there, could you ask for me? Then just go straight back in and say, what would it take for you to feel sufficiently comfortable to ask your questions? Who might you bring with you? Because we're wanting to incentivize this opportunity here for dialogue as much as possible. Because this is their birthright, this is their event, and through them harnessing the skills of being able to have this dialogue and resolve this matter, that's a set of life skills that they'll carry with them now and add not only to the social capital of their immediate world, but also to the organisations they have influence in and all the relationships which they seek to foster in their lives. Thank you.